I guess the old saying is like ships passing in the night. This is not just at Iowa. Again, this is just about everywhere in college football. Comings and goings. And we will discuss them here at Hawkeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate everybody being here. You know the drill. We will discuss between Corey and I Iowa football, but you ultimately produce the show. So leave those comments and questions and consider contributing to the channel as well right here at the Voice of College Football. The guy that makes it work each and every week for us on Tuesday is Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Get on over there to the Hawkeye.
From the
Hawkeye of the Storm. It's been a long time since I've messed that up. Give me that much credit.
I've got people
mess it up every week.
I've got people in my family that call it Hawkeye of the Storm, so it's fine.
From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I used to mess it up every week, and now it's been quite a long time since I've screwed it up. But there we go. Just never say Voice of College Football. It is the Voice of College Football. So,
yeah. Yes, I think I pretty much do that. But by the way, people need to get to your channel here because bowl season is an exciting time. And I know as an Iowa fan, I just launched another Bowl Mania group. So hopefully, Mark, I don't know. Are you willing to submit your picks on my Bowl Mania group?
I used to take part in a lot of different pools. And there's been a few recently that I've opted out of. I think that's the term for the season. I opted out of some already, so
okay.
I don't want to guarantee anything necessarily. I guess I could just fill it out and be done with it. Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to finagle you a little bit, but anyways, so I'm excited about that. We got bowls starting Friday, right? We got a morning game on Friday, so kind of a slow time for Iowa basketball. The Hawks losing Sunday to Wisconsin, dramatic fashion. They get like 5 days off. You have two really. I shouldn't say meaningless games, but games that Iowa should dominate in a row, and then you have like 7 or 8 days off. So this is bowl season, Mark. This is what I enjoy. Basketball kind of takes a back seat, and you get one more hurrah, one more string of games, and we're back into the off season again. So as people know, lots of activity still in the transfer portal. It's going to be an active off season. The questions will start to come up in January about staff changes. I know some people still believe that there could be some staff changes. I'm not going to close the door on that notion because I think a lot depends on what happens this month in the portal. I really do believe that. But regardless, just a busy time. And just want to say, first of all, I mentioned it on my channel earlier. I'm not incredibly familiar with Mike Leach. I mean, I know who Mike Leach is, and certainly his career and his quirkiness has been well documented, but he is I don't want to call. Would you call him a legend, a college football legend, Mark? He's an icon in the sport, no doubt. I just want to express my condolences to his family. I know everybody's doing that, and stuff. I'm sure my words aren't going to get back to his family, but just absolutely tragic time. And you don't know a person like that, but you know of the person. You followed their career, and you know who they are, and you think about their family and how sudden this whole thing went down. It's just heartbreaking. So. Condolences to everybody, the whole team, his family, everyone involved, friends. Just a very, very difficult time. It shows you how fragile life really is.
Yeah, life is fragile. Life is precious. And I don't want to belabor the point and honor Mike Leach anymore in regards to this show, but I'll let people know that certainly when the news came down of Mike Leach's medical situation and then later his death today, you can go and check out my thoughts, and we took calls on both occasions. So the last couple live streams there at the Voice of College Football on the main channel, my thoughts on Mike Leach, and I was also going to prepare, since much of what I had to say about just was more of him as a human being. Was in the process of preparing some perspective on his football achievements and legacy as we move forward, as it pertains specifically to the passing game. So yes, quick tragedy. Things can happen very quickly. Again, he, of course, had health issues, but they weren't much publicized. And, he was coaching football on the practice field on a Saturday and attending a Christmas party on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning had to be life flighted and had the massive heart attack. And here we are on a Tuesday morning. He's gone. So again,
and
yes.
For the record, he has had heart issues in the past. He's had issues,
Yeah.
health issues in the past. So he was not in great health, but it's sad nonetheless. So, anyways, we can certainly talk football. I mean, as sad as that is, that we transitioned from Mike Leach to football. He was a guy. He was a guy who was so influential on the sport, and his air raid attack changed the sport. And I wonder, again, trying to segue in a kind of an uncomfortable fashion here. Cade McNamara was on a podcast here the other day, Mark, where he talked about how Iowa has told him how the plan is to rely more on the passing game. And I don't know if you saw the quote, but he was quoted as saying, please keep saying that Iowa's offense is crap. Please keep saying that Iowa's offense is the worst in the country. I'm begging you to keep saying that. In other words, he's kind of implying that, he's going to prove all the doubters wrong. They're going to prove all the doubters wrong, which is great. I know there's a portion of the fan base that probably gets really revved up behind comments like that. I'm not one of those people because I recognize it's, as Steve Dace would say, it's oftentimes still about the Jimmies and the Joes, right, Mark? I mean, can we agree on that? And right now, they've lost some Jimmies and Joes, and besides Cade McNamara, haven't really gained anybody. They lose Keegan Johnson. He committed to Kansas State Sunday. Justin Jacobs, I know he's on defense, but was projected to be a starting linebacker. He moves on to Oregon. Those are two high major programs, Mark. Two teams that both, correct me if I'm wrong, both of those teams made their conference championship games this season, correct?
Yes.
So, those are pretty, anybody who wants to say, well, Keegan Johnson wasn't that good or, not a big loss. Well, the fact that Kansas State and Oregon are taking these guys proves that those are major losses.
Yeah.
So
Oregon did not make the conference championship game. I kind of lost track of where we were on this, but yeah, Keegan Johnson, Kansas State, yes.
Who made the conference championship? Who made the Pac-12 championship game?
Utah, USC.
Utah. Okay. Utah. So, but my point is, those are two excellent I mean, those are arguably two top 20, top 15 programs right now in this era. I don't know where they're ranked, but Kansas State kind of certainly on the upswing, and they've got a really solid future. I was informed by a couple of Kansas State fans yesterday and today, Mark, that I know nothing about the Wildcats, which is very much true. I don't care to know anything about the Wildcats. What I can tell you is that Keegan Johnson's going to a conference that does rely more on the passing game, and he's got an opportunity to show off his skill set. So I'm happy for Keegan, and we'll see if Arlen Bruce, and there were rumors about Arlen Bruce to Kansas State. We'll see if he follows suit. So it'll be I think probably a good change for Keegan.
Send those Kansas State fans to my channel. I know you just sent them away, but
I just told them have a nice day.
My one fair warning for Cade McNamara, and I have great respect for Cade McNamara, this really has nothing to do with him because he's going to show up and he's going to put in the work. He's going to be a leader. He's going to make the right decisions on the field. He's going to be a capable quarterback and a top 3 to 5 quarterback in the Big Ten. For anyone out there, and I think fans sometimes believe that just throwing the football more is going to magically make your problems on offense disappear, that it's all about just how much you throw the ball. I don't know how many fans call on a regular basis and they just want their teams to throw the ball more. Just throw the ball more like that's a magic cure. I would ask anyone to go to team statistics on offense for any season, start with this season, and go to the teams that throw the ball most, the teams that run the ball most. It is not a magic cure just because you throw the ball a lot that you're going to amass yardage and points.
Yeah,
that's just my statement.
And Mark, here's the deal. As it relates to Iowa, the comment from Cade McNamara that Iowa was planning on going more pass heavy, that's all fine and, might tickle the ears of Hawkeye fans out there that have wanted that for some time. But the reality is, my opinion, may mean nothing to people who are watching, but my opinion is that I do not trust Brian Ferentz to be the guy to lead those changes. So even if those changes are what Iowa needs, and I think there's reason to think that Iowa does need to, I'm not saying you go spread, but figure out a way to obviously you got to make passing game's got to get better. Wide receiver involvement has to get better. We know all that. But do we really trust Brian Ferentz to be the guy on that, Mark? These people out here who say, give him one more year with these changes. Why? I just don't. What has he proven as it relates to the passing game? I'll give him this. He was successful in New England with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, but believe you me, Mark, those two guys, as you know, were generational players in the NFL at their positions. So, and Iowa obviously has done very well with Sam Laporta at tight end. Brian and Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson, those guys played in the Brian Ferentz era. So Brian has been blessed with really good tight ends here. You got to give him some credit for that, developing these guys. But, the proof will be in the pudding, too, with this transfer portal, because we all got excited about Cade McNamara committing here. But since then, Mark, it's been pretty quiet, obviously. I mean, as far as a lot of we know the kid from Hillsdale College, Isaac Tesla, he's really starting to reel in those offers. So he's got offers from Oklahoma State, Houston, Baylor, Miami offered him yesterday. So I believe he's visiting Iowa this weekend, or I believe he just visited Iowa this past weekend. I'm getting Seth Anderson and Tesla confused. So Tesla visited Iowa this past weekend. That's great. Iowa got in on him early, got their foot in the door. That might help. However, Mark, the pull of a high-powered offense like Baylor and the allure of a Miami is hard to overcome from a recruiting perspective. So if you're an Iowa fan, you hope they can reel in Isaac Tesla. That'd be a huge one, big-time get. Seth Anderson from Charleston Southern hasn't reeled in the high-end offers that maybe a Tesla has, but he is a kid that Iowa has really gone after hard. He was a Big South Player of the Year down in Charleston this past season. Kirk Ferentz and Kelton Copeland were both down visiting him here a couple of days ago. So they're making a hard push for both of those guys. I can tell you this, Corey Crooms, Western Michigan wide receiver transfer, was somebody Iowa was looking at and recruiting. He has since committed to Minnesota. So he's off the board. Trayshawn Holden, the athletic kid from Alabama that every Hawkeye fan out there thought we were going to get because of all these rumors and rumblings. And then we were told, well, never mind. Iowa found some baggage and they're passing on Holden. Well, he's going to Oregon. So whatever baggage it was, Mark, didn't hold Oregon back. And somebody said this to me today. What could it be that Oregon just has lower academic standards? Yeah, to an extent. I was doing some research today. That might be true to an extent, but I don't think it's real significant. If you look at how those two schools match up academically with the national rankings that are out there, they're pretty comparable. So I don't know. Maybe they were academics. Maybe it was something else. But whatever the baggage was, quote unquote baggage, that Iowa allegedly moved on from Holden as a result of, that wasn't enough to hold Oregon back. So Iowa loses Justin Jacobs to Oregon. Oregon also gets Trayshawn Holden. I'd say they're doing pretty good in the portal, just based on those two additions. And I understand that there's Oregon, the Oregon allure and Nike, and I'm sure they've got more NIL funding than Iowa does overall. I'm sure that's the case. But the bottom line is they lost Crooms. Holden didn't work out. Keegan Johnson's officially gone. They have not landed anybody, all right, at wide receiver. Nobody. And it looks like Bruce is probably going to leave, although he has not committed anywhere yet. He's got time. But, Seth Anderson, Isaac Tesla are the two guys you're looking at. I did see the kid from North Carolina State enter today. Mark, maybe you know who I'm talking about.
Devin Carter.
And he had
he's a tremendous player.
So he's a guy that I said right away, I'd be looking at him. I don't know if they can pull him away from NC State, but Mark, you're nodding your head. That's accurate.
Somebody's going to pull him away from NC State. If he's entering the transfer portal,
he's in the portal.
I don't know that anyone. Yeah, I saw him in the portal earlier today, and I've seen him play enough to know that he's a really good player. He's going to
Yeah.
be playing in the NFL. Um, I would like somebody to run the numbers to say, to let us know how many of these players go back to their original schools. It has to be in these single digits in terms of percentage. Has to be.
Yeah.
It's not, very few go back to their original schools. So
Although
he's going somewhere.
I did see Austin Reed opted back into Western Kentucky, and he was a kid last year, Mark. And I don't know how many, it was Austin Reed. Did Austin Reed go into the portal and then not get any attention from anyone in the Power Five? That could be. But he was at the Division II, Division III level last year, and I remember saying, you might want to look at this kid. And he had quite the season for the Hilltoppers. So, anyways,
you're doing a better job of keeping track of this transfer portal than I am. But this is my approach to the transfer portal. So, first of all, everyone, head on over to From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I got it right. From the Hawkeye of the Storm, head on over there because Corey is not just telling you and giving evaluations on Iowa's losses, but candidates that could be or should be headed to Iowa. What I've done, because there are just too many players to keep track of, is I'm just waiting for them to land. Once they land somewhere, I'm producing videos and letting people know, okay, here's an addition to Florida State, Jaheim Bell, tight end from South Carolina, tremendous addition. There you go. This is who he is. And I'm just waiting for these players to land. I'm not chasing them around all over the place through the transfer portal, but you're doing a great job of that.
Most of my people who want to follow the transfer portal stuff, and if you care about, me relaying this information follow me on Twitter at From the Hawkeye, because I'm not actively posting video content on potential targets. Mark, there's just been too much going on. I mean, you post a video or two every day based on just what happens with Iowa in the transfer portal. I mean, these last 2 days, you've had Justin Jacobs committing, Keegan Johnson committing. Today, we got news that Iowa safety Dallas Cradith would be entering the portal. Kid that I really admire, has stuck around here for 5 years, Mark. He was a 4-star kid out of high school, had offers from Wisconsin to Michigan State to Mizzou. I mean, all over the place. And he opted Ole Miss. He opted to stay here, get his degree, and is now looking for a home for 1 year. Really respect a kid like Dallas Cradith. So, yeah, there's just been news consistently. And the other kid that I was going to mention is Aaron Anderson. You know who Aaron Anderson is, right? Number 4 wide receiver in the 22 class, according to On3. He is now in the portal. So, he's an Alabama kid. I mean, you probably should look at every Alabama receiver that enters. I mean, I think that's probably fair, Mark, right? I don't know if you're going to be able to pull these guys in, but look at them. I mean, if we're putting all our chips on Anderson and Tesla, even if, first of all, I'm bought into Tesla. Do I have tons of confidence that Iowa knows how to evaluate receivers? No, not tons of confidence, although I give Kelton Copeland credit for identifying Keegan Johnson, Bruce. Those guys were 4-stars, so I don't know if it takes a rocket scientist to do that. But he also identified Charlie Jones from Buffalo. They obviously don't know how to utilize some of these guys, but they know how to identify talent. But when you see Miami offering, when you see, first of all, Josh Gaddis is the OC of Miami. He's a wide receivers coach. That obviously is a flying endorsement for Isaac Tesla. And then got teams like Baylor, Oklahoma State that have high-powered offenses. My point being, I'm bought into Isaac Tesla. I put huge numbers up at Division II level. Seth Anderson, maybe a little bit of a roll of the dice, but was very successful. His father was an NFL. I believe his father was an NFL receiver. But I mean, again, you're still putting your chips on a Division II guy and an FCS guy to replace previously 4-star recruits in Keegan Johnson and Arlen Bruce. And then what happens if you don't get Tesla? Say Tesla commits to Gaddis at Miami and Seth Anderson finds a new home. I don't know who they're on. I don't know who they're in on. If you lost Crooms, you're not on Holden anymore. You lost those 2 guys. Another guy that I was told that Iowa had on their big board was Theo Weiss from Oklahoma. He committed to Mizzou the other day.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm sure they're looking at other guys, but my point is, you don't have guys left, Mark. They don't have scholarship players. I mean, they're obviously they're going to get people. I'm not doubting that they will get people, but there's a pecking order here. And I have to think that if they struggle to get players in the portal, specifically on offense, that will be reason, even if it's not currently in in the works or part of the plan, that will give Kirk Ferentz at least reason to maybe think harder about we have to make a change as it relates to coaching staff changes, because you're not going to convince me, Mark, that the coaching staff and Brian Ferentz could be contributing to guys leaving at the wide receiver position. And so far, Iowa's inability to get guys to transfer in at that position.
The evaluation process and the acquisition of talent through the transfer portal, I'm not saying that it's easy, but I got to think that the checklist for the evaluation is fairly easy. So if you've got a guy like, let's say, wide receiver Dominic Lovett from Missouri, he was the third leading receiver in the SEC.
Yeah.
Check. You don't need to know anything else.
Yep.
Third leading receiver in the SEC. Why don't you go after him? Okay. For some other players, I got to think in addition to, let's say, an FCS player. You obviously can't go by statistics. You need to evaluate the player against the competition and make an evaluation. You need to look into the background, because there is baggage with some of these players, whether that be off the field baggage, academic baggage, or
injuries.
Injury baggage. There you go. I would also think that these coaches would talk to each other. They're in competition to a certain extent, but across conferences and across the country where there's little connection, that you would rely on certain people that you trust in their evaluation of players within that conference.
Perfect example would be the Trayshawn Holden situation. Yeah. I find it a little bit odd. I know those multiple Iowa media members reported that. I don't have any connections to Trayshawn Holden or Cade McNamara or the Alabama program. I'm not doubting those media members who reported that. One of those media members also happened to predict that Iowa was landing Holden and then backtracked as soon as this report came out. So that's beside the fact. But my point is, I do find it a little peculiar that Iowa was apparently in on Holden before he officially entered the portal, before that portal window officially opened, right? And when you say in on the kid, well, the report was that Cade McNamara had contacted him, and that once the portal window was open, Iowa would make official contact with Holden. But Mark, wouldn't you think that if that was the case, if those things were going on before that portal window opened, wouldn't you think Kirk Ferentz would give Nick Saban a call, given the fact that those two guys respect each other, they've coached together? You know that Kirk Ferentz has Nick Saban's phone number. Wouldn't you think that he would have called Saban probably before that window opened and gotten word of this baggage prior? I don't think it would have taken a week for us to figure out that Holden had baggage that would be too much for Iowa to, undertake. I don't know. I don't know. I don't buy everything that's out there, and that's just an odd one to me.
And maybe I'm stating this incorrectly, but just based on appearances and reputation and so forth of this program and this head coach, and this is generally a compliment, that baggage component is weighed more heavily at Iowa maybe than some other places.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not saying that that's an incorrect sentiment. The Oregon thing, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon was willing to overlook some baggage and Iowa was not. Yeah, that makes sense. But at the same time, I doubt that Oregon's bringing in guys who are going to erode chemistry. And I mean, that's just too reputable of a program to think that they're just going to bring in a bunch of, parasites that cause issues, for chemistry in the locker room and whatnot. So we'll see. I saw that the comment here from Hair Trigger that Ayir Asante, I did see that Tyler Barnes, Iowa's recruiting coordinator, did follow him today. I don't know anything about him other than I looked at his stats and he was okay at Holy Cross. But I mean, we're talking about Holy Cross football, Mark. I mean, do you know much about Holy Cross football? Do you ever do a post-game show do you have a Holy Cross at the Voice of College Football?
It's on the short list of candidates, of course. It's probably going to beat Minnesota and Illinois to the punch. Yes, of course.
Okay, so in 2022, according to the Holy Cross website. He had 20 receptions for 448 yards and 5 touchdowns. So those are pretty. I mean, could we agree that 448 yards for the whole season? And how many games was this? This was 12 games, 448 yards in 12 games. I mean, without looking at tape of this guy, it's okay. But does that scream Power 5-star? I mean, is that what that screams, Mark?
Maybe he's playing with the Iowa offense of the FCS, and he's the next Charlie Jones.
Hey, there you go.
We don't know, but by the statistics, no, it's not like he's 100 catch guy at that level. And wow, we got to check this guy out. The statistics are underwhelming.
Yeah. So, but anyways, we're going to get good news. The Eric All question, I keep having people ask me, well, why isn't Eric All committed? Well, Eric All is probably being pursued by teams not named Iowa.
Absolutely.
I understand. My guess is that he will still commit. That's my guess. I think the Iowa's got 2 huge things going for them right now in the Eric All sweepstakes. One is Cade McNamara. Very simple, right? His relationship with Cade McNamara is tremendous. Actually, I'd say 3 things are going for them. The Cade McNamara connection. 2, they got him on campus, got him to the Iowa State basketball game. That's huge. And then the third thing would be Iowa's history. Won that game, Mark. Third thing would be Iowa's history in producing tight ends.
Yes.
And sending tight ends to the NFL. I don't think Eric All necessarily needs them. I mean, he was already a pro prospect, but those 3 things are going for Iowa. So I would not be surprised with Sam Laporta leaving if they get Eric All. That'd be probably my prediction at this point. But my point is there are likely other schools courting Eric All, who's one of the top tight ends in the portal right now. I don't know where he ranks. In fact, let's be a good question, Mark. Where do you think Eric All ranks right now in the 247 Sports transfer portal tight end rankings?
In the tight end rankings?
Yes.
I can't imagine that there's a tight end ranked ahead of him. Are we talking about if Jaheim Bell of South Carolina is listed as a tight end, which he may or may not be? I can't think of anybody that's better than he is.
But Jaheim Bell committed to Florida State, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you're right.
Yeah.
Jaheim Bell is ahead of Eric All. That's the only guy, according to 247 Sports. All is the
I'm right there with 247. See,
yeah.
They've been watching me.
Kid Rivaldo Fairweather, who's number 3 from Florida International. So
one thing I'll say about a similar situation last year between quarterback and playmaker that were on the same team and then moving on was that Caleb Williams left for USC, and it was assumed that Mario Williams, one of the best wide receivers in the country from Oklahoma, they were just a tandem because Mario Williams, the wide receiver, entered the portal at the same time as Caleb Williams, and he didn't make that commitment for a month. It was a long time before, and then he finally went to USC. So yes, Eric All, if he's a smart individual, which we can assume that he is going to weigh his options and talk with other coaches and maybe make other visits. But I got to think that I was in a great position there.
Yeah, I agree. And Ernest Hausman was another guy that was, it was All, McNamara, and Hausman that were at that Iowa State game. So they're in on Ernest Hausman, I'm sure, partially because of the Justin Jacobs departure. They knew that was coming. So I don't know where Hausman, I haven't been following. I think I follow Hausman on Twitter, but I don't know where he's at right now with offers. But again, I mean, these guys are getting, Hausman is a terrific young prospect from everything I've heard from Nebraska. I mean, he's a bright spot on a kind of a poor defense. He's a young guy. I mean, he's got several years. He's got, I think, 4 years. Does he have 4 years? I played more than 4 games. So he's got 3 years, technically 4 to play 3. So, but obviously the need is on offense. That goes without saying. I'm not breaking any news with that. The need is on offense. The need is specifically with wide receivers. And if Cade McNamara comes into this next year, and again, they'll get somebody, but if he goes into this next year with his top targets being Deontay Vines, Nico Reganey, if he comes back, and Brody Brecht, I'm not going to be very confident in, Iowa making a big jump, even though I do believe a quarterback can help Iowa to make a significant jump. not as high as it could make with a change in play caller and OC, but I do believe it would cause Iowa to take a jump. If you don't have a guy like Tesla, or you don't have somebody from the portal that gives you immediate playmaking ability, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in changes being drastic. I also don't know if Iowa going after any linemen specifically. I know of at least one lineman that was planning on entering the portal, and I've been told was convinced to stay by George Barnett. So that's, I guess, good on George Barnett for helping that to occur. I know of another, I won't say who, but I know of another offensive player who had been planning on entering the portal, and I've since been told that his mom told him, you're not going anywhere. So, I guess that's good on mom for helping Iowa to recruit. So, those are positive. There's some positive things that have gone on behind the scenes. I don't know if anybody else is going into the portal here soon. But it's always possible, and the portal window's open for quite a while longer. So we're only a week. You realize it's only been open a week. This transfer portal stuff's been going on for 8 days now. So there's still more coming, and hopefully positive news.
And I believe it's a 7-week. I believe it's a 5-week process for 35 days. I believe that's the time frame. Everyone, we love football. You love Iowa football. We also love our country and know that we've had tough economic times and difficulties here in the last few years. So you can both help yourself and others by partnering with our partner, Gene Arthur Associates, right here at the Voice of College Football. Go to www.jaainsurance.com. Get your instant quote on home, auto, motorcycle, boat, RV, and so many insurance types. We could list them forever. Health, dental, and crime, cyber, bonds, all sorts of things are covered. We have dropped the link in the chat several times. Go there for your instant quote. Why not save on insurance and also help those families that are supported by Gene Arthur Associates? So please give them a look. Corey, I will say this because my mind's going in about 18 directions of no particular long conversations, but just a few notes here. One would be that just to finish my point on throwing the ball versus running the ball, and fans in particular being pass happy, thinking that that's a cure for offensive woes. Ohio State and Tennessee are the two highest scoring offenses in college football. Guess how much out of 131 teams they throw the ball on average per game?
Like percentage of plays, or you
number of attempted throws per game, where they rank out of 131 teams.
The best offenses, I think, are typically 60-40 run. So I would guess that they're in the vicinity of 30 throws a game.
Well, in terms of ranking, Tennessee throws the ball 60th in the country in pass attempts per game. They have the highest scoring offense in the country. They're 60th in pass attempts. Ohio State's number 2 in scoring. They're 72nd in pass attempts per game.
Yeah. People have to realize that, you're exactly right. People have to realize when you're talking about passing the ball more, when you get ahead, the best offenses get ahead and then run the ball. So that's an aspect of it. And the best offenses, regardless if you're a spread or if you're spread or not, the best offenses like Ohio State establish the run. Just like Iowa, they're effective. Well, just like Iowa wants to be effective on play action. But see, the point is, Mark, Iowa has not had the bodies, the personnel collectively, whether it be up front, at wide receiver, at quarterback, to be able to take advantage of play action. Okay, so even when the run game has been okay, first of all, they don't know how to take advantage of waste downs. I don't know that Brian Ferentz knows what a waste down is. I looked at a stat earlier that said that Iowa had, I think, 20 some waste downs this year, which is such a small number when you think about it. It's they didn't try to take a shot on one true waste down, Mark. They ran the ball every single time. When I say a waste down, for people who don't know what a waste down is, we're talking about 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2. That's typically what you classify as a waste down, because you should be able to get a waste down because you should be able to get 1 or 2 yards on 3rd down if you take a shot on 2nd. Or if you know you're going for it on fourth down, 3rd and 1's a waste down. And if you go back and look at every true waste down, you could argue Iowa did not take a shot, not to try to take advantage of a single waste down all year. That is not that's got nothing to do with personnel. I don't believe that has anything to do with personnel. That's just a lack of aptitude as it relates to play calling. And that's the problem with saying, well, we're going to go more pass heavy. Okay, you still have to have a guy who understands what calls to make at the right time, when to attack, when not to attack. To your point, Mark, you can't just say, well, Iowa does not have the personnel to go, well, fittingly, they don't have the personnel to go Mike Leach. So that's not going to happen. And until you have a guy who's understands a passing offense, I just don't have a lot of confidence in things changing that drastically.
And I know from hearing some people's response to waste downs that they look at it as though, okay, well, on 2nd and 1, we ran the ball and got 3 yards and got a first down. So what's wrong with that? That's successful. We just got a first down. I get your point. You kept the ball, but you now have a first down at your own 28-yard line. Okay, fine. But it's been proven that effective offenses need to be explosive at some degree. They have to be explosive. It is generally impossible to consistently mount offense that relies on 12 and 15 play drives for the length of the field. There are too many negative plays made by the defense, too many chances you turn the ball over, too many chances at a penalty, that you need explosive plays to make scoring easy at times. It doesn't always have to be a grind, and it shouldn't be a grind a great percentage of the time if you're going to be an effective high-scoring offense.
And I know this is stating the obvious for most avid football fans, but any coach in the country would say, any coach that knows what they're talking about would tell you that they would much rather 2nd and 1 than 1st and 10. It's not even close, obviously. 2nd and 1 is a gift. We don't treat it as a gift here. We treat it as an opportunity to pick up a first down, to get a 3-yard carry. And at some point, you can build. That's not to say you're going to take a shot down the field on every 2nd and 1. It's all about tendencies and then breaking tendencies. Iowa doesn't understand that. Iowa's tendencies is called predictability. That's what it is. It never changes. It's the same thing over and over again. Like I say, beating your head against a wall, expecting a different result. So whenever I saw Iowa run for a first down on 2nd and 1, is a worse to me. It's the epitome of Iowa's issues. Not understanding time and place, not understanding when to attack or how to attack. So, give Iowa the playmakers. So Charlie Jones was here last year. Didn't change anything. So, again, I go back to being negative Nancy on this. But the one piece of hope that I have is that if Iowa struggles to get playmakers, that will kind of force the hand of Kirk Ferentz to make a change. Although I don't know if Brian Ferentz doesn't have a job lined up right now in the league. Is he going to be able to get a job on short notice? Like if we get to the end of December in the bowl game and they haven't landed anybody in the portal at wide receiver, anybody that's a major factor moving forward, what are they going to do with Brian? That's a big question mark. So, I was having the same conversation we had 3 weeks ago, but it is what it is, Mark.
Didn't you ask me my percentage chance that Brian Ferentz is going to be the offensive coordinator next year? Did you ask me that, or was that somebody else?
Yeah, I think I did.
I don't remember what my response is, but I would like your response.
At this point, yeah, fans aren't going to like this. If you had asked me during the season, a totally different response. But at this point, December 13th, based on what I've been told and what I know and what you see going on, I would say there's about a 75% chance he's back next year as the OC. And I hate to say that, but that's based on what I see. Now, again, if Iowa fails to recruit receivers and get guys on here, if they just keep swinging and missing, then that percentage chance goes down. But I would think that if you're going to make a move, you'd have that plan. And it'd be hard to – I just can't imagine that Kirk proceeds completely business as normal between now and the bowl game. Like, to me, there's got to be – it would have to be some indicators. Like, I can tell you with a certainty that I won't say who, but certain players who have left Iowa, who are leaving Iowa from the offensive side of the ball, have been given no indication that there's going to be any changes on offense as far as it relates to the staff. So take that for what you will. That is an indication to me that's part of the reason why I would give the 75%, because you'd think if you value these guys who are leaving, and if I was smart, you're valuing the guys who are leaving. In fact, I know that they've been re-recruiting these guys, trying to re-recruit these guys. You would make known to them, hey, if part of the problem is the play caller or, the scheme or whatever, we're going to bring in a guy who's going to change that. But to my knowledge, that has not been stated to these guys who have left.
Which leads me to wonder why Cade McNamara made what on the surface seems to be such a quick decision. Okay, money. All right.
I guess what it is. I mean, he can say all he wants about how, this offense is going to be great. What other reason would he? It's been widely publicized. Iowa has not ran away from this fact because they've used this as an initiative to get more people signed up to donate towards the collective. So they want more people donating to be able to get more players. So it's basically been stated, hey, NIL was a big factor with Cade McNamara. Now, there are other reasons why a quarterback would want to play here, contrary to what a lot of fans would say. One being the defense is championship level. All right. The special teams unit has been championship caliber for quite some time. So if you can build an offense around Cade McNamara, you got a chance to be a Big Ten championship level team. But again, there are also reasons to explore other opportunities. And you're right. He committed to Iowa quickly. And, maybe when he wanted to compete against Michigan or have a chance to compete against Michigan in a Big Ten title game in a year or two. That's possible as well. But I can't imagine picking a school based on that.
They better hurry up for next season because 2024 is bringing a whole lot of changes to this conference.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. So we're probably looking at a 1-year outlook here. But no, it sounds like NIL was a big factor with Cade. So I don't know how much money is Iowa able to throw towards some of these receivers out there. I'm guessing not as much as a Miami.
For anyone out there that's taking shots at the Big Ten, and I hear about it every day, yes, the conference was not at its best this past year, but believe me, Wisconsin will be back. They will be better. Nebraska will be better. USC and UCLA are coming. This is a stacked conference. Here's a few things that, and I know people dismiss the bowl games. They don't care about the bowl games. And you know better than I do what the temperature in the room is concerning this bowl game. But I do have a couple points to make about this. And we will discuss, of course, we've got 2 more shows before we get to the Kentucky bowl game. Again, I didn't have proper enough time to communicate this last week. How ridiculous I believe it is that these 2 teams are playing for a second consecutive season. Nobody can explain to me, except for these bowl games obviously act autonomously, so they can select whomever they want within the guidelines of the tier system. But there should be some oversight to say this hurts college football in so many ways. Fans don't want to see the same team. This is an opportunity for conferences to play and teams to play that never play and to line up the same 2 uniforms back-to-back seasons, especially when I understand Kentucky is playing one of their most important, from a brand standpoint, basketball games at the same time. They're playing Louisville in basketball at the same time as this game is being played. It's just dumb. Just like you talked about the Nebraska game for Iowa being played at the same time as an Iowa basketball game.
But that was Clemson on a neutral court. A little bit different. You're right. Kentucky Louisville is a totally
it's like a CBS game.
But Louisville is absolute garbage. But you're
right.
They're
garbage, but this is on a yearly basis one of Kentucky's biggest games. I also wanted to get to, I want to make note of this. I'm going to release a video. I believe I'm going to release a video that's going to basically stack up my preseason predictions against what actually happened. I will state that I had Iowa at 8-4 and 5-4 in the Big Ten. So
pretty close.
Pretty close.
Well, they ended up 7-5, Mark.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting they lost that Nebraska game.
Yeah.
I was right on the conference record. That's what I was going to brag about. The conference record. Shoot, they screwed me on the final game. My next question about the bowl game That's so strange that didn't even connect when I was going through the numbers. That, oh yeah, I missed it because they lost to Nebraska. Who's starting at quarterback in this bowl game? For Iowa.
Either Labus or Carson May.
Wow, that's going to be fascinating.
Petrus had surgery on the shoulder.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And I'll just say this too. I did find it interesting. I was a part of that Zoom conference with Kirk here a couple of weeks ago and lead up to the bowl game.
Yep.
And he was asked about Spencer Petrus and his health. And I think Spencer's probably moving on. But here's what gave me reason for pause. Kirk made a point of saying how Spencer would have been preparing for the NFL draft this spring. And so, hold on a second.
The NFL draft.
In the words of Jim Boeheim, Mark, I do make jokes, but that's not a joke. In Kirk Ferentz words, Spencer would have been preparing for the NFL draft. However, with the injury, that would be disrupted. He's not going to be back by then. And that gave me, I sat there and I thought, I wonder. I don't think this will probably happen. I'd probably say it's an 80% chance that he's still gone, but it was almost like Kirk's way of slipping it in there of, well, he wants a chance to earn his spot in the NFL. So his only way to do that is to stay here for his final year, for that extra year that he has available, so that he can prepare for the draft next year. That was what it sounded like to me. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't think it will. But would you be shocked if they bring Petrus back and Petrus agrees to be the backup behind McNamara, which means he'd be one play away from being the starter again, one injury away from being the starter? Yeah, you laugh. Listen, that's a possibility, Mark. If he comes back, McNamara goes down, maybe that knee gives out. Oh, that knee goes out, and all of a sudden Petrus is your starter again in 2023. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I'm sorry. I don't have anything against Spencer, but that would be insane. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't be shocked.
We'll honor these super chats here. Thank you so much, Mad Man Videos, super sticker contribution from you. Thank you so much. And Erica is here as well. Erica, we appreciate you being here. You know that. No upside to our play caller. Please gently press the like button, everyone. Yes, thank you for doing that. Thank you for encouraging everyone, Erica, to hit the like button and subscribe both here, the Voice of College Football Iowa, but of course, get on over to From the Hawkeye of the Storm and check out Corey's work. I just assume at this point that everybody that watches us here knows everything about you, watches every video you release, is just completely locked in.
I hope so. I don't know that there are always a couple names that I don't recognize in their chat, but do appreciate everybody supporting both channels. And I try to promote this channel as much as I can, Mark. And I always enjoy these Tuesday afternoon shows. Usually I come off of these shows thinking to myself, probably shouldn't have said that. I end up saying that to myself a lot, Mark. I don't do that on my show, but I don't know what it is about a Tuesday afternoon at 4:30. But I am saying something like, probably shouldn't have said that. So if people watch both channels, they don't bring it up later.
Don't blame me for bringing it out of you, because I'm not exactly sitting here asking the tough questions. I just cut you loose and let you go.
That's the problem. Yeah, you cut me loose. That's the
problem. Do. I figure I talk enough all week on all these other channels that I want to hear from you. So before we leave, I want to remind everyone that our sponsor is Gene Arthur Associates. So we have left the link in the live chat a number of times. So please get there for your instant quote. Why don't you want to save money? You might as well give it a shot. Check out Gene Arthur Associates, and their customer service is phenomenal. And again, they can save you money on any type of insurance needs that you have. So again, the link is in the live chat. Also, I don't know how much time you have. It's 6:31 Eastern, but just wanted to make note that this is high praise here, and it's well earned that Jack Campbell was named Consensus All-American, just Iowa's 29th all-time. And when I say just, I don't know where that ranks, but it's obviously a high honor when only 29 players in the history of the program have received a consensus All-America status, 115 tackles. Also, Kayvon Merriweather and Tory Taylor named to various All-American teams.
Both those guys, I'm happy for Kayvon. He got kind of snubbed on some Big Ten awards, and obviously Jack Campbell is deserving. Kayvon Merriweather's paid his dues. I mentioned you pre-show here. Kayvon was at the center of helping Iowa to kind of get back on track with the 2020 off-field issues and some of the allegations. So I'm happy for Kayvon. He's been a worker, hard worker. He's got a great attitude, great young guy, and I'm assuming he's leaving. It sounds like he's leaving. He's indicated that. I think he's got a chance at being a really good safety in the league, Mark. I mean, he was a better basketball player in high school than he was a football player. He's kind of a late bloomer as it relates to football. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a really successful safety in the league. So, yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to both those guys. I think Tory Taylor was second-team All-American by the Associated Press. Obviously, well-deserving. We don't know if he's coming back yet. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where – there's a lot of good punters out there, Mark. And he's like 26 years old, so I don't know what his thinking is. But, yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to those guys. And they're going to miss Jack Campbell. I mean, with Justin Jacobs leaving, there's some voids there. We don't know about Seth Benson. They may lose all three of those guys. I mean, we know you're losing Jack Campbell and Justin Jacobs. I mean, we don't know yet with Seth Benson, but boy, they lose him. Then you really you better hope you can get Ernest Hausman, or you better hope that Jay Higgins steps up, or a Kyler Fisher, or a Jaden Harrell. It'll be interesting.
Punting is the one skill in football that is basically not dependent on anything else. You catch the snap, you punt. I would think if you've proven yourself to be the best punter in college football, or certainly one of the best, we could argue him as the best, why don't you move on to the NFL? You're doing the same thing. You know, it's not like I got to run these routes better against better competition, or, you know, I got to get stronger to take on defensive tackles in the NFL. It's I punt and I'm this good. I've got all these punts on tape. Thanks to the Iowa offense, I've got all this audition and resume work on tape. I can punt in the NFL. Might as well leave. I don't know why you would stick around.
Well, I don't think Tory Taylor, he had his poor moments. He struggled to get. There was a stretch after Ohio State for 2 or 3 games where he really struggled. I don't know if part of it was health. You know, he got hit pretty hard in that fake punt where he tried, tucked it and tried to run and got hit pretty hard. I don't know if he was suffering from an injury after that, but that might be a factor. Maybe he thinks he can put together 12 to 13 better games next year on tape. But again, you're not getting any younger. Punters can last a while in the league, but that's a fair point. Mark, there's a couple questions. If I missed any that were in the chat, I apologize. Can we do a couple of rapid fire questions before we get off here? So Charles says, hey guys, question. Do you think it's more of a development issue or recruiting talent issue with Iowa players? Because when I watch you guys, besides the tight end room, there is no real playmakers. I think it's a combination of both, right, Mark? You know, I've said this before. You don't get to 130th in total offense without having a number of issues. Play calling's an issue. Development is an issue. Even we've talked about quarterback development, and Nate Stanley's best year was 2017. Did Spencer Petras make big jumps, strides between 2020 and 2022? I sure didn't see any significant strides. So obviously evaluating talent. How about this, Mark? I don't want to go off on a tangent because I know we got to wrap up here. It's been well documented that Iowa took Spencer Petras over Zach Wilson. But let's also not forget, let's not forget who else they took in 2019. His name was Alex Padilla. Who was another quarterback in that class that happened to hail from the state of Iowa that Iowa missed on? And I can tell you with a certainty, had they recruited him harder, probably would have had a chance to get him. His name was Max Duggan. They took Alex Padilla over Max Duggan. So, evaluating, recruiting, that's all a factor. And I don't know who do you blame there, Mark? But from what I know, had Iowa made a harder push at Max Duggan, there was probably there was certainly a better chance they would have gotten him. I don't think they did not really pursue him hard. And so, it is what it is. That's my point. So recruiting is an issue, has been an issue at quarterback. I think you could say the same thing at wide receiver. They have been struggling they had been on the struggle bus for quite some time recruiting receivers. I think their recruitment of running backs has been pretty good. Minus the Kendrick Raphael decommitment they got during the season. Caleb Johnson's he's got a chance to be a really good football player. He's already a really good football player. So, would you answer that question differently, Mark?
Well, yeah, I think your summary statement of when you rank 130th in offense, there is not one problem, hits it perfectly. I am a bit perplexed by, and I know this doesn't address the playmaking portion of this, but the offensive line not being as good as you would expect at Iowa. I'm a bit perplexed by that being Kirk's wheelhouse and their ability to both recruit and in the past develop great individual offensive linemen, and as a unit, not as recently. So I'm surprised by that. Of course, Charlie Jones is the most recent, and he's the poster boy for a guy that was underutilized. And maybe he's learned something more about his craft at wide receiver at Purdue, even.
And just be clear, BQ Train says he went to school with Duggan, and Max Duggan wasn't going to Iowa because he didn't think their offense was a fit. Well, I can tell you with certainty, Mark, on 100% authority, that Iowa did not pursue him hard. So it wasn't just a matter that Duggan went somewhere else. It was also a matter of, I think Duggan had reason to believe that Iowa wasn't really fully invested in getting him to come to Iowa. So I'm just adding that in there. This next question from Devin: will McNamara have 2 or 3 years left? He's got 2 left, Mark. I believe he could pursue a medical hardship waiver, which would give him 3. Now, if you're doing the math there, that'd be 7 years in college. So I doubt he's going to do that. My guess is that he's going to play 1 or 2 years here. If he has a great year next year, maybe he takes his shot at the league. I don't know that Cade McNamara is an NFL quarterback. Maybe he ends up being a backup in the league if he has a really exceptional year at Iowa. Guys have done that here. Stanzi was for a while, finding a way to hang in the league. Beathard has hung in the league. So I doubt he's going to be here for 3 more years. Ari Gold, I'll let you answer this question, Mark. How does a coach manage team chemistry when every year the team could be drastically changed?
Well, there's a difference in asking that question today than there was, let's say, 3 years ago, because we're coming into an era of college football in which that seems to be a huge disadvantage, and it is, in trying to just piece together guys that have only been in the locker room for a few weeks into a cohesive unit, and from both the chemistry on the field that needs to develop to the chemistry of liking each other, having each other's backs, all those things that form a team. But everybody's being challenged by that. So you're not necessarily at a disadvantage today that you would have been at a few years ago, because everyone's facing the same challenges to varying degrees, yes, but Iowa's losses right now seem to be fairly standard, although, as I pointed out last week, I thought that they were slightly on the severe side of the concern meter because of the quality of players that were leaving.
Well, and just think about it, Mark. We're a little over a week into the transfer portal, and 2 of Iowa's entries have already found homes at Kansas State, who was in the Big 12 championship game, and I think unquestionably a top 15 Oregon program. So, compare that to last year. Iowa obviously had less attrition last year via the portal, and their 2 best portal exits, if you will, were Tracy and Charlie Jones, who both went to Purdue. So Purdue versus Kansas State, Oregon. And we're only a little over a week in. Deuce Hogan went to Kentucky, but he's a walk-on. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I agree with you on that. They've lost 2 really good players. I don't care what anybody says about Keegan Johnson. They've lost 2 really good players. Mark, would Kleiman have offered Keegan Johnson if he didn't believe in Keegan Johnson? I would think not, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris Kleiman knows what he's doing.
Yeah, as does what's his face, their OC Klein. So they know what they're doing. And then finally, 2 questions here. Tony says, "What will the channel's schedule look like for pre-bowl stuff, or is that all still in the works?" Still in the works on my end, Mark. I'm sure we're gonna have you got a Kentucky guy. I'm guessing we're gonna have on the week of the game.
Yes, sir.
And then I can tell you this, Tony. We'll have Coach Patterson on my channel from the Hawkeye of the Storm for a preview of that bowl game, and we'll preview it here on this channel. And then Casey is Hawkeye Hangout tomorrow. I don't have any plans for Hawkeye Hangout tomorrow. Mark, I had the Wednesday evening call-in show throughout the season, and now that we're into December, that's going to kind of be as an as needed to be announced basis, because that's a tough, I mean, you're doing call-in shows all the time, Mark, but that's hard to do it every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. I can tell you Wednesdays are long days for me. So we'll keep doing those Hawkeye Hangout shows, Casey, but just stay tuned. And if you're following me on Twitter, that's where I make a lot of my announcements. But join the bowl if you're interested in doing Bowl Mania and you want to compete against myself. And last year, Don Patterson filled out a Bowl Mania selection sheet. So if you're interested in doing that, go on my channel. I posted the link on my channel, also on my Twitter. So definitely be a part of that if you can.
All right, folks, make it on back next Tuesday at 4:30 Central. Bring a friend or two with you. How about that? That would help us a great deal. So we deliver the content, and you bring a friend or two into the chat next Tuesday at 4:30 Central, and we will see you all then. If you want to follow some Nebraska football as well, we're on in about 20, 25 minutes on the Nebraska channel with Huskers Live as well. See you next week.